Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to get started. My name is Sarah Warsey. I am the marketing manager here at Sentia. We appreciate all of you joining us today. Before we get started, just a friendly reminder that all attendees are automatically muted. If you do have any questions during the session, please share them in the chat window and they will be addressed at the end. So, today's session centers around IBM's Power Virtual Server and how it can help you seamlessly migrate your existing IBM I, AIX, and Linux workloads to the cloud while maintaining the performance and security that you rely on. Speaking on this topic today, we have Russell Rowe, IBM's Power Systems Sales Leader for Canada and the Caribbean, and Paul Cudmore, Sentia's Senior Technical Architect and Cloud Specialist. So, a quick overview of the agenda. We will just have a very brief overview of Sentia, a quick intro to the speakers, a high-level overview of IBM's Power Virtual Server, and then how Sentia can help simplify your journey to the cloud with the IBM Power Virtual Server. And then we'll get into a call to action, and we will close the session with Q&A and closing remarks. So, for those on the call that may be unfamiliar with the entire scope of what we do, we just wanted to give you a quick summary of our capabilities. So, Sentia is a Canadian based managed IT solutions provider with a strong national and international presence. We have been in operation for 16 plus years with our head office based in Richmond Hill, Ontario. We have a team of skilled experts. We work with businesses of all sizes, and we have a wide range of, and we cater to a wide range of industries, including finance, manufacturing, insurance, and higher ed, to name a few. We also have extensive experience in advanced virtualization, business continuity, Microsoft network and security, and of course, the cloud. What sets us apart, we'd like to believe, is our unique ability to conceptualize, design, implement, and manage our full suite of solutions. And of course, we are a proud, longstanding partner with IBM, and we have strong relationships with other complementary technology leaders. So just a quick deeper dive into our speakers for today. So Russell is a Power Virtual Server sales subject matter expert with over 26 years of experience with IBM. He leads cloud and power system sales teams globally, building strong partner relationships. His deep expertise in IBM Power Systems and extensive experience in the banking and financial services sector make him a very valuable resource. Paul Cudmore brings over 25 years of IT experience. He specializes in optimizing data center operations through IBM Power Systems, cloud computing, and automation technologies. So with that said, I would like to pass it over to Russell to get us started. Russell, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's call. As said, I am the IBM Power Systems Virtual Sales Leader, covering Canada and the Caribbean. Next slide. You can go on to the next slide. So I'd like to provide an overview of the IBM Power Virtual Server, also known as Power VS, which is an IBM Infrastructure as a Service offering that provides a secure and scalable server virtualization environment built upon this identical enterprise stack as the certified on-prem Power Systems platform. Similar to the on-prem servers that have been hosted in data centers for the last 30 years, Power Virtual Server runs mission-critical workloads such as certified SAP HANA and NetWeaver, Oracle on Power, Red Hat OpenShift, IBM Cloud Paks, AIX, Linux, and of course, IBM I. So for SAP Certified Infrastructure as a Service, IBM Cloud offers a broader set of SAP certified infrastructure, including with Power VS. This gives flexibility for clients to extend their current SAP on-prem landscapes to cloud for re-architecting them, saving them time and money. Additionally, clients will continue to run their most business-critical applications on the infrastructure that they trust and are familiar with. So for example, clients like Power servers for their top-notch performance, scalability, and resilience. in terms of transaction and analytics processing. So now they can continue to get the same reliable power servers on IBM Cloud and continue to reap the same benefits that they get on-prem. As this slide shows, some studies have shown clients getting up to 212% return on investment for SAP on IBM Cloud over 3 years. And likewise, customers running IBM I have seen on Power VS that is 58% less expensive than the competition. Next slide. So as such, IBM Power Virtual Server enables existing Power Systems customers and new SAP HANA on Power Virtual Server clients to migrate their workloads to a cloud operating model, which utilizes pay-as-you-use billing, so users can more easily scale up and out without giving up the benefits of the traditional resilient and secure Power Systems platform. Next slide. So as previously stated, Power VS is an infrastructure as a service offering. So let's take a look at how the offering is structured. So Power VS, if you look at on the left-hand side, Power VS is co-located adjacent to the IBM Cloud, allowing for connectivity to other IBM Cloud resources. As an infrastructure as a service offering, IBM is responsible for the network, storage, server virtualization. So with Power VS, unlike on-prem, clients do not have access to the virtual I/O server. And IBM is also responsible for the initial deployment of the operating system image. Clients can bring their own image for supported operating systems. Above that, you'll see platform services. So this is where additional services can be provided by business partners such as Sentia, where they value add for both platform services and managed services. And at the very top, you'll see the business logic and tech platforms such as SAP, Oracle, IBM DB2, and IBM WebSphere. On the right-hand side, just to recap in terms of the same full enterprise stack that's consistent with on-prem, the superior resiliency, performance, and security, the Oracle support and certified SAP, also in terms of comprehensive compliance, and I'll list some of the compliance features on a later slide, a flexible and cost-effective consumption, and 21 worldwide data centers. Next slide. Now, as I said, Power Virtual Server allows access to other IBM Cloud resources. This is somewhat of an eye chart, but I just wanted to reiterate that IBM Cloud is a full stack cloud platform with a strategic focus on mission-critical solutions and regulated industries. So, as I said, you can see from compute through to AI and machine learning. And when we get these slides, you can have a little bit deeper on the various offerings. Next slide, please. I stated earlier, there are 21 data centers across the globe and growing. Right now, we have over 650 clients, including over 30 banking clients. As you can see, the key workloads, again, are SAP, Oracle, IBM I. From a healthcare perspective, we've been looking in terms of Epic, but right now it's just a training case. Red Hat OpenShift, the Cloud Paks, and the same OS that you're familiar with on-prem, AIX, IBM I, and Linux. Also, from a compliance perspective, you also have comprehensive compliance, so GDPR for the EU, SOC 1, Type 1 and 2, PCI DSS certification, and ISO 27000. The SOC 2, Type 1 and 2, that recertification had been planned in 2023. That's now complete as of June 2024, and also certification for IBM Cloud Financial Services Security Framework is complete. This combination of global data centers, key workloads, and compliance matters as Power Virtual Server allows for frictionless expansion and migration between on-prem and IBM Cloud, with the same workloads supported both on-prem and in Power VS. We've also seen in terms of use cases, production, HADR, and dev test use cases. And clients kind of range from those who are just looking to continue kind of running the AIX and IBM Linux as on-prem. So they're looking to upgrade and expand their options to deploy both on-prem and off-prem, so more or less a hybrid setup. Managed service providers who want to offer service to their customers but are looking to get out of the game of buying and hosting their own data centers. And independent software vendors who want to host and create software as a service offerings and take advantage of the IBM global geographic footprint to expand into additional markets while reducing their development costs. Go to the next slide. So speaking of geographical footprint, this slide shows the location of the current 21 global data centers. As you can see, within the Americas, there are 4 regions. Dallas, which has 3 data centers hosting Power Virtual Server. Washington also hosting 3 with WDC 07 new in 2023. In Canada, we have Toronto and Montreal. And in South America, there are 2 data centers in Sao Paulo, with Sao Paulo 004 new in 2023. So I know, especially with Canadian clients and Caribbean clients, there's typically a preference to host in Canada from a data residency perspective. So you have you covered in that perspective. And if you're able to host in Dallas and Washington in the US, you're also covered there. For clients who have like worldwide operations, we have also within Europe, Frankfurt, 2 data centers in Frankfurt, 2 in London, and 2 in Madrid. So obviously from a GDPR perspective, Madrid and Frankfurt allows you to maintain that compliance. And then further east, we would have recently opened up a data center in Chennai in India. And we have Osaka and Tokyo in Japan, and also 2 data centers in Sydney. So as I said, note the Power VS is physically located in IBM Cloud data centers with their own dedicated infrastructure, which allows us to maintain similar on-prem supports and certification. Next slide, please. Now, each client has their own fundamental goals and strategies when moving to Power Virtual Server. However, based on the 650 plus clients currently using the offering, the 4 most common client use cases were found to be 1, business continuity planning. So this is where you see clients using a hybrid setup for backup, high availability, and disaster recovery. This allows for reduced capital expenditure and reduced capacity planning complexity, as clients do not have to purchase upfront excess capacity as they would for an on-prem DR server. The second use case that we see a lot is data center optimization. So where clients are looking to rehost workloads with an architecture aligned to their on-prem certified stack. And this allows for maintenance of ISV certifications and support. So for example, with SAP workloads and Oracle. The third common use case is in terms of modernization. With the seamless access to the over 200 plus IBM and third-party cloud services, clients are able to shift their workloads and do some modernization of their applications and take advantage of not having to buy the maximum capacity and being able to provision on demand for enhanced performance, scalability, flexibility, and cost efficiency. And the fourth use case that we see, operation excellence and cost optimization. This allows for improved service and response times, and also ensure off-hours coverage. So like from an off-hours coverage perspective, there's support, again, for the offering from IBM And we follow the, as you say, follow the SAN kind of operations model, where you can have support 24/7 because we have specialists who in our support organization across all regions of the world. So allows for that 24-hour coverage. And also at the very end, in terms of ease of technology upgrades. So from an on-prem perspective, you're kind of accustomed if you're going from, say, a Power 7 or Power 8, you have to bring in a whole new set of hardware, do that testing. And each time you have kind of almost like a kind of a rip and replace perspective. But with the ease of technology, as you get the next level of power, that's available within the cloud. So right now we have Power 9s and Power 10 servers. So clients don't necessarily have to do that rip and replace cycle. They'll just simply move from their existing instance. So let's say you have instances in Power 9, and once Power 10 is available in the particular data centers, you can just move your instances into Power 10, and that makes much easier for you to do a technology upgrade. And also from a perspective, let's say, for example, you're looking to upgrade your operating system. Easy to spin up an environment, do that upgrade, test it, make sure that is fine, and then schedule your upgrade without actually touching your current production environment and another LPAR, another virtual instance in Power VS. So next slide, please. They say for business operation, results are what matter. And we showed 3 examples here of clients who have taken advantage of Power Virtual Server. FNZ, they found that they can spin up new Power Virtual Servers in as little as 10 minutes. We also have IPTAR, who have been able to use Power Virtual Server to cut their IT infrastructure spend by up to 80%. And we have EcoGas, which have shown that they've been able to reduce their operating cost by 20%. Just kind of touch on EcoGas a little bit more because this kind of gives a kind of the full breadth of our VS and on-prem hybrid situation. So they were looking to upgrade the digital channels with their customers, going to an SAP HANA 2.0 solution. And they wanted to basically test whether or not Power could handle that new solution. So what they did is that we created a development environment using Power 9 servers in Power VS. EcoGas was able to test that environment and prove that it could handle their workload. And then based on that development environment, they then moved ahead with a hybrid setup where they had Power 10 on-prem and set up disaster recovery using Power Virtual Server in the cloud. And this overall hybrid setup has allowed them to be able to reduce their operations cost by 20%. And as their information technology leader said, IBM is one of our most trusted IT partners. Based on the results of our proof of concept, the IBM Power Systems Virtual Server, and the close strategic alliance between IBM and SAP, we were left with no doubt that IBM Power 10 is the optimal platform for our new SAP HANA 2.0 solution. Next slide, please. So next, thank you. Let me complete the overview of the on-prem by doing a comparison in terms of the on-prem cost line items versus Power Virtual Server, and see where Power Virtual Server either eliminates or absorbs costs related to on-prem Power systems, and where we believe we can see savings up to 35% or more. So if you look at on the right-hand side of the graphic, you'll see in terms of Power hardware, on-prem hardware, but basically a move to a Power Virtual Server. The hardware maintenance is eliminated because that is covered in terms of Power VS. The hardware services to implement the hardware is also eliminated because, again, that's handled by IBM. Storage is included VTL backup server, storage, and network, that's also included. Virtual tape library backup software license is also included. IBM is partnered with Falcon Store, and actually this allows you both to get Falcon Store licenses for both on-prem and in Power VS in the cloud. So again, you can also set up a hybrid backup strategy whereby you back up on-prem, take advantage of the deduplication of the virtual tape library, and replicate that over into cloud as part of your disaster recovery strategy as well. You also, by moving to Power Virtual Server, the end state, if you have both production and disaster recovery in the Power Virtual Server, this allows you to have both prod and DR. You would not be required to use like a third-party HADR software because you can use stuff like Power HA, which allows for replication. And also there's some other additional services within Power Virtual Server that we have rolling out. We started with between Dallas and Washington, D.C., whereby you can replicate at a storage level between those, between production and DR, depending on which data center you use. IBM software maintenance, that is included as part of Power Virtual Server. So that's one other line item that is absorbed by the offering. Client data center cost, that's eliminated because you don't have to worry about paying in terms of the power and cooling associated with on-prem. Server hardware administration, that's eliminated. But note that the operating system and application responsibilities in this infrastructure as a service that lies with the client or their managed service provider. And from a ransomware perspective, with our virtual server, you can do snapshots and you can have that air gap in terms of backup, the ability to identify the last known good copy, and that can be included within the offering. So this, as I said, with that, there's a potential to do some from a total cost of ownership savings of up to 35% or more. So I will end here in terms of the overview of the Power Virtual Server offering. Do not hesitate to submit any questions that you may have. Thank you. So I'll hand over to Paul or Sarah.
Yes, thank you very much, Russell. That was great. So we do have a poll. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties and we were unable to launch the poll interactively, but we do have a question that we'd like to pose. So feel free to enter your answers in the chat and we will just kind of do the poll that way. So our question was, what was the number of attempted cyber attacks in Latin America and the Caribbean in 2023? So feel free to put your answers in the chat. And Chad, I'm going to look to you to let us know what we're seeing, and you can be the one to relay what the actual answer is. We'll give it maybe 10 seconds.
Sure. And I mean, no idea is a valid answer, but you please just put in a number. Just think about it in 1 year, how much attempted cyber attacks
Attempted cyber attacks, yes,
in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Yes.
Okay, we've got 2 answers. Give it a shot. Back your brain. We'll just wait another 4 seconds, or 5.
Sure. No problem.
So we've got 2 responses so far. One is no idea, which is valid, and one is over 10 million, which is also a fair number.
Okay,
so,
fair enough.
So the answer is 200 billion.
That's with a B, billion. That's
200 billion. This is from Microsoft Cyber Labs. Now these are attempted. They haven't. The majority came in Latin America, but Jamaica, for example, had 45 million attempted attacks. This is from, again, Fortinet CyberWeb group. The OAS had a survey in 2022 that showed almost, I think, 10 billion between January and June of 2022. So This is real, guys. You know, a lot of our current methods work to repel the attacks, but they are trying. So don't think that we're off the map. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, everyone that participated. So now over to Paul Cudmore. Thank you, Paul.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Hope everybody can hear me okay. Just a little introduction about myself. My name is Paul Cudmore, and I'm a senior technical architect with Sentia Solutions. I've been with Sentia for 8 years now. I started working on power systems way back in 1995, so quite a long time ago. I think I need to update my bio. I think it's more than 25 years now. Starting with AIX 325 on an RS6000. So yeah, I've been around that long. I have been working on cloud systems for 10 years now. I started out as an AWS certified solution architect. A little bit after when I joined Sentia around 2019, I helped start the Sentia's Azure cloud practice, working with customers to migrate workloads from on-prem to Azure's infrastructure as a service offerings. But for the last 4 years, because of my background with IBM Power Systems, I've been focused on expanding our IBM cloud practice, especially with Power VS offerings. So that's why I'm here to talk to you today. Next slide. So I just want to expand on some of what Russell said, covering at the end of his presentation. Many people think that cloud is expensive, and you know, it can be. There are situations where it gets out of hand, but when you're comparing the costs of an on-prem LPAR or even a whole server to the cost of a cloud VM, you may not be including the cost of all the supporting infrastructure that for that on-prem system. So things as Russell went over, power, UPS, cooling, rack space, physical security, and all that kind of stuff, the physical environment that the server sits in, everything that it plugs into, like networking, storage, monitoring, and management, those costs have to be accounted for. Things that provide services to this to your LPAR, like identity management, access control, perimeter security, and I didn't even mention backup and recovery. Also, the hardware and software maintenance of all the components below the OS, so VIO servers and the hardware and everything that could physically happen to that server through support. You have to account for that cost. And then more so for like a VMware environment, but the licensing of virtualization can be very expensive, and that's included in the cloud consumption model. Now, cloud costs can balloon out of control if it's not monitored closely. This is where a lot of customers have a bad experience with the cloud. They put something in the cloud, they open it up to their IT department, and you know, costs aren't monitored, and things can get out of control without them being aware, and they suddenly get this large bill. So that's where consumption alerts and resource limits and regular audits of your cloud environment can ensure that your costs don't get out of control and you have a bad experience. Next slide. Now, I would argue that the cloud is cost effective. So what I mean by that is there are a number of benefits of running in the cloud that are not always obvious. So you get a fully redundant hardware stack. Typically you're not buying extra servers, but the cloud provider is. And the cloud provider is responsible for dealing with hardware issues. If the equipment running your workload fails, it's up to them to provide the resources required to run it. It may not automatically get started up on another system, but the resources are there for it to be relocated if there is a hardware failure. And you don't have to wait for parts to arrive, or you don't have to wait for the system to be fixed. There's spare resources in the cloud that you can take advantage of. So on-demand growth, how good did you forecast your growth for your system? Did you know that your CEO wanted to merge with another company and now you suddenly have more workload? Did you have a product launch that went amazingly well and now you're overwhelmed with requests for your services or products? Well, if you are on the cloud, rather than on-prem, you can quickly ramp up those resources so that you can account for these changes in your demand. There's almost no delivery, no time for delivery for a cloud system. It'll take a few minutes to deliver rather than, placing an order, having the systems arrive a few weeks later, and then having to build those systems out to support your proposed workload. This can all happen within minutes and hours on a cloud environment. The cloud is never obsolete. Some of you, I'm sure, are still on Power 7, and you're looking to get off of the older platform because it's no longer supported. Now, you're probably tired of the endless refresh cycles. So as long as you keep your operating system and applications current, you will never need another hardware refresh in the cloud. As Russell was mentioning, you can migrate from Power 9 to a Power 10 in the cloud once the Power 10 becomes available. And I'm sure when Power 11 comes out, that will be introduced into the cloud, and you can migrate over to that. So you can always stay current in your cloud environment without having to refresh your hardware. OpEx versus CapEx. A lot of accountants love this. OpEx means all your costs can be expensed rather than having to depreciate an asset over time. Makes accounting a lot cleaner. No hardware decommissioning afterwards. And I've been in many data centers. I've seen the hardware graveyard. People just don't want to deal with decommissioning their hardware. They'd rather, everybody's got a lot to do, and they have to focus on getting things up and running, and sometimes systems just get left in racks or stuck in a corner, because nobody wants to deal with the problem. That becomes the cloud provider's problem. You don't have to worry about decommissioning hardware. You don't have to worry about, scrubbing data off of your systems. All that kind of stuff can be left to the cloud provider. And cloud is not an all or nothing. You don't have to say, okay, now we're going to the cloud and we have to get rid of everything on-prem. Usually, a hybrid approach is much better because you can place things in an appropriate environment. And we're going to go over some of the scenarios where you want to do a hybrid cloud. Next slide. Okay, so now we're going to talk a bit about some of the ways Sentia can help you take advantage of IBM Power Virtual Servers. We're going to cover dev test implementations, DR environments, and maybe even a production cloud migration. And then the fourth one is a specific offering for IBM customers looking for a fully managed DR solution. It's important to note that this offering, there's no need for you to open up and maintain a cloud account, which may make it easier to justify the cloud since you're just signing up for a service with Sentia. We're going to cover those 4 scenarios over the next couple slides. So the first one, this one's a very easy one to get into. It makes a lot of sense. In this scenario, we would provision a Power VS workspace and set up a VPN connection to your corporate network. It's ideal. You might have for a short-term project you may have that requires rapid delivery, as I mentioned, very quickly delivery times on the cloud. Or you may not know fully what the requirements are, or they're ambiguous, so it'd be difficult to size a server for your requirements. Setting up the workspace would allow you to easily adjust your environment once the requirements are confirmed. Another reason to go with this option is for space-constrained data centers. If you don't have the room or the power or the cooling to support a whole new environment for a project, then adding a Power VS workspace can take the stress off your on-prem facilities. In this area of cyber attacks, you may want to have a completely isolated dev test environment from your prod environments and lock down prod. If you keep your prod on-prem, and then you could move your dev test environments into the cloud so that there's no overlap of hardware or resources being shared between them. So this scenario is very easy to get into cloud. It doesn't take a lot of resources on-prem to do this. Like I said, it can be a VPN connection from your existing firewalls, and you can take advantage of cloud for dev test. So that's the first situation where you can easily get into cloud. Next slide. DR in the cloud is one of the most cost-effective scenarios, and Russell touched on this as well. Putting DR in the cloud eliminates the need for that second data center, the physical data center. Often a cloud data center has much higher availability than you would reasonably provide in your DR environment. A lot of DR environments are scaled down versions of their production, but you could easily provide the full-sized environment in the cloud to support your workloads if you had a disaster. You can easily select from one of the many IBM cloud locations around the world to ensure that you are geographically isolated from whatever is going on, to make you declare the DR incident. And the most compelling reason, I think, for putting DR in the cloud is that you don't need to provision a full copy of the prod infrastructure until you need it. Resources can be scaled down to minimums in order to maintain any replication or standby services required. And if you declare a disaster, then the cloud resources can be scaled up quickly to meet the demand of your production applications. So a lot cheaper than buying your full-blown, full-blown physical environment in your DR location. You can scale up as needed. So very effective in controlling your costs for DR. Next slide. If you do decide to go full production migration, you can take the leap to a hybrid cloud or a full cloud, and we can assist you through that process. Cloud infrastructure is engineered to be highly available and resilient, as I mentioned. And as Russell mentioned, IBM Cloud supports many industry and government compliance programs such as ISO, SOC, PCI DSS, so you can maintain all these standards as you move to the cloud. Once you've established your cloud footprint, again, Russell mentioned, you now have access to over 200 cloud products and services seamlessly from your environment. So you can expand and grow your applications, modernize them with newer resources like Kubernetes or a serverless or anything like that can be added. Cloud object storage, all of those things are easily accessible from within this cloud environment. Next slide. So this offering that we're going over here is a partnership that we have with Maxava to provide a fully managed DR solution hosted in IBM Cloud. There are no upfront costs. It's a monthly subscription. You don't need to set up your own cloud account, and all of the licenses are included with no additional software required. This offering includes 2 DR tests per year, and what that involves is we spin up the full-sized environment you need. You can run testing on that system for up to a month, and you can do that twice a year. So a lot of people find it hard to do their DR testing twice a year or even once a year, but this would help make that a lot easier. You get Sentia support during those tests to help with any issues that come up during the DR test. So that's a specific offering we have for our IBM I clients. Next slide. So how do we approach these cloud migrations or cloud implementations? There are many aspects that must be considered when planning a cloud implementation. So first thing, you must have business buy-in. If the cloud migration is being pushed from the IT side of the house, you're going to get a lot of resistance, and you may not get the support you need to migrate these applications. You may not get the resources to test. Projects may lag because of lack of participation. So very important, before you start your migration to the cloud, you need your business buy-in to make sure it's successful. In order to understand how to set up your cloud environment, you need to know your application dependencies, and it would be great if these are documented. So the first thing we would want to do is work with you to document application dependencies. This will eliminate or reduce a lot of problems when migrating to the cloud. Systems that talk together might have to move together. And if you don't do that, you may introduce latencies or other issues that could break your applications. Again, and the next one is one of the most important things, your network design and planning. Because you are basically moving locations of your production systems, if that's what you're doing, the network becomes critical, and especially your network, your internet connections to the rest of the environment. Very critical to take the time to design this properly and figure out your bandwidth requirements, and that ties into your next item, which is security and compliance. You have to understand this to make sure you're setting up your cloud environment properly, to make sure you maintain your compliance with governments or regulations that you might fall under. Very important, as I mentioned before, you have to be up to date in your software. This should be done anyway. Your cloud provider will not support older operating systems. You're going to have to be on current OS levels. Your hardware doesn't have to be up to date, but your operating systems and applications have to be up to date. One thing we really like to do is do a proof of concept. This ensures that we understand how things are going to work together and that there's no hidden, dependencies that we haven't thought of. It helps eliminate some of those gotchas that you might run into. Doing a proof of concept can be done fairly quickly. We can set things up in our own environment without deploying a full-blown cloud environment for you, and then we can sort those things out. And of course, ongoing support is very important. We will be there if you have any questions or concerns after the migration. You can also sign up for managed services for as long as you need until you're comfortable with operations of your cloud environment. So we don't believe in like setting you up and then walking away. We want to make sure that you have a successful cloud migration. Next slide. Now, on top of all of the migration services, there's other services that can be layered on top of these migrations and cloud setups. So as I mentioned, managed services. This includes OS patching, backup management, monthly reporting, and ad hoc service requests. Remote monitoring includes 24/7 monitoring and incident management for OS and other related issues. We can set up high availability clustering using PowerHA or Maxava. And then a big topic, especially from last week's incident, endpoint detection and response. Lots of buzz around this topic after the CloudStrike stuff. Now that wasn't a cyber attack, but it was planning. It was unfortunately a cyber defense tool that wasn't updated properly, but for AIX and IBM, this would be using PowerSC, not CloudStrike. We also partner with a company called Cynet for Intel endpoints, and we are a Microsoft partner if you need something like Defender or Sentinel. Next slide. So I think I will pass it over to Chad now to talk about the next steps.
Thank you, Paul. So, as Paul identified, part of doing this is the services to really help you to do this, because it will be a new step for many of you. And Sentia is set up to help, and we do have services designed to assist with the migrations. And we have our own cloud instance on IBM Cloud that we can set you up and provide the services to move you successfully. And as he said, we won't leave you there. We'll ensure that all the application tests are done and the business signs off to say it's running as it normally would. Now, this service is full service. We'll come from the planning stage. We'll help build, and we'll work hand in hand with you and the application vendor to perform the migration. And all the after migration, post-migration tests that's required to validate that the environment is running as it was will be done, and we'll be there side by side with you until you have signed off and said you're very happy. We'll also provide follow-on services. Once you're happy with where you are, then we'll look at your backup and DR planning and help you write out a new DR plan, because this will change now that your data center is in the cloud. all of this is just value adds to the business decision making. As you said, business buy-in is critical. So we work with you through the entire stage of the migration. We'll advise and work with you on the discovery, the design, the questions that need to be asked. We will build it, and typically we're going to build it in a POC first, just to ensure that if we missed anything, we'll pick it up, and then we'll migrate using a planned migration, and all of this will be project managed by our project management, our very skillful project management team, working with, I'm sure, your project management team. So all of these activities will be done as projects, fully managed and resourced, and working hand in hand with both their businesses and your application vendors. So that's pretty much it in a summary. There are some additional offering resources you can look at the end of the slide to kind of increase your familiarity with the Power VS offerings. You feel free to check that out when we send you the slides. I didn't see any questions in the chat. We're going to allow you to ask questions now if you have any. We have a couple minutes left.
Yes,
are there any
thank you.
questions?
Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Paul. So yes, if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. I'll just give that a few minutes.
Does anyone have any comments on the session? Did it meet your needs? Did it raise some questions? How many of you are looking at cloud strategy in the near future? There you go. We have a question from Akeem. How does the on-demand resources work? Paul?
So I'm assuming you mean on-demand scalability. So individual VMs can be resized, and sometimes it takes a restart. But so the process of requesting on-demand resources, it can be automated through auto scaling. There's techniques that do auto scaling, and then. Of course, you can just spin up an instant anytime you need it. So there's lots of different ways to scale up resources, either scaling up existing resources or adding additional VMs or resources that way. I'm not sure.
As well, Paul, he's suggesting how do you request it? So let's say he has the Power VM. How does he request the additional resources?
There's a portal that you go to in the cloud, and you can manage your systems. Just it's almost kind of like the HMC, but you don't have access directly to the HMC. But you can go in and resize, you readjust your CPU, you can adjust your memory, you can adjust the amount of disk space, and once you click OK, it'll resize the VM. So that's one way to do it. That's manually. You also have access to tools like Terraform and Ansible and APIs and command lines that can do it through like a program type approach.
Akeem, there are two ways of doing it. There's a self-service portal, or you could work with us to automate it. So, you could limit how the requests are made. Great. Munifa has a question. Both cloud and on-premise environments need to be fully compatible to connect.
I'm not sure what you mean about fully compatible, but ideally, if you're doing some sort of replication, the two systems should be on the same OS level. They don't necessarily need to be on the same power version, so you could replicate from 9 to 10 or from different versions of power. As long as the OS is supported on both platforms, you should be okay. Yeah, so it's pretty much the same as on-prem. As long as it's a supported platform, then replication is supported on the same OS versions.
So they meant power versions. Does that provide any added clarification? to the question?
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah. So like I said, as long as the platform is supported, so right now it's Power 9 and Power 10. Power 8 was just dropped off. So Power 9 and Power 10 are compatible. If you have the same version of AIX or IBM I running on them, they can work together through Power HA or through Maxava or anything like that that would use some sort of replication or clustering. So typically it's the OS that's the limiting factor.
Akeem
Okay.
has another question. For the DR site, is it only provisioned when needed, as in we upload the data and it will only consume resources when we activate the DR site?
Yeah, so how much resources it uses depends on how quickly you want your DR site up and running. If you need something, and that goes to your RPO and RTO. So if you need something back very quickly, you would likely be running some sort of replication, real-time replication, and it might be minimally sized, but you still need to have something running. And then when you need to activate DR, you can resize it. But if you don't have like the really quick demand, you could be replicating your data to the cloud, and then you could do a restore of your VM at that time, and that would be a lower cost solution, I would think. But you're trading off how quickly you're going to recover for how much you want, how many resources you want to consume during when you're not activating your DR. Is that
Akeem, does that answer your question? Okay. James, do you want to ask a question now?
Maybe to expand a bit on Akeem's question, some things need to be set up. Oh, latency in Guyana. So it's hard to tell just by saying, okay, what's the latency from a certain area? That's one of the reasons we want to do the POC to see if latency is a big issue. We would try and pick the data center that services your application the best. Now, Guyana might be closer to the Sao Paulo data center, so that might be a good choice. But again, we'd want to test out that, and that would be a fairly simple test to set up. You don't even really have to provision much. We could set up a VM in a certain data center, and you could just try and access it through SSH or something like that. We could do some bandwidth testing and latency testing that way.
Okay, great. Thank you, Paul. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, there was another one here.
Okay.
We would work together. So the question is, do we choose the data center we want, or will you make the choice? So we would work with you to determine which data center would be the best choice for you. We're not going to dictate where you want to put your workload. But there are some factors you might want to consider, and one of them is latency, but also data residency is a big question some people have if they don't want their data in the US or if it has to be in Europe. Um, uh, then we would decide, okay, which one's the best data center for your workload? What would be the minimum download or upload speeds required to run the cloud system efficiently? Okay, so again, that depends on your requirements. Um, if you have a high bandwidth application, you're going to need a lot of bandwidth. And that's another reason we want to do a proof of concept, is to test how much bandwidth you might need for your application. And the network sizing and design is a big part of that as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. Some excellent questions and engagement. Thank you, everybody. So if there's no more questions for now, we are going to wrap up the session for today. On behalf of everybody on the call, I'd like to thank Russell, Paul, and Chad for presenting. We certainly hope everybody found the information very insightful, very informative. A recording will be sent out after the session, so please look out for that. And we also will be sending a copy of the deck so that you can access those educational resources as well that we had shared. So thank you, everybody. Again, we really appreciate your time today.
Thanks, everyone. And
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
if anybody wants to further information, feel free to reach out, and we will come and look at your particular use case.
Yes, please reach out to Chad for any follow-on discussions that you'd like to have. Thank you.